Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. We are going to talk about New Year's around the world. And so we're going to look at traditional New Year's and modern New Year's. But first, this is Latina Literati. Most New Year's in the world are based on the sun, the moon, or a combination of. The Gregorian calendar, which is the Western calendar, celebrates New Year's on January 1st, and it has so since 1581. The Pope issued a papal bull or instructions, something like Integravissimas, meaning that they were going to replace the pagan Julian calendar with the Gregorian calendar to spread out leap years to make up for the days that accumulate, because in our modern terms, the actual year has 365.5 days. And so the Gregorian calendar makes up for that by giving us things like leap years. But we'll talk about other calendars and what they do as well. The Chinese New Year will start on February 10th, this next February 10th, and last for several days. And it will be the year of the dragon. This is the symbol of power, strength, and good luck. So it's going to be a good 2024. In no particular order, the Amazigh, or what Western cultures erroneously call Berber New Year, is starting January 14th. That's the official celebration when there are holidays in Morocco and Algeria. And the Amazigh, the original people of North Africa, are in their 2,900th and I think 75th year. So their calendar is more ancient than our calendar, and it is based on other events and other markers. It is not just a solar or a lunar, and so there are special foods and festivals that will be celebrated in January for that new year throughout North Africa. In contrast to Bali, where New Year's is spent in absolute silence and meditation. So compare that to nearby Thailand and Burma, where you have water festivals and water is poured on elders as a way of blessing and bringing in abundance in the new year. In Western Australia, the Aboriginal people of Murador celebrate their New Year's at the end of October of the Gregorian calendar with festivals and music and celebrations. The spring solstice is a very traditional and ancient New Year's celebration, and so it's as ancient as even before the Persian Empire. Current Iran and Afghanistan and all the countries in the area celebrate the spring solstice in March as the New Year, and that is week-long celebrations, and we've talked about this before, with family and being out in nature, and there are different things that are displayed in the home to bring about abundance in that special time of Nowruz. Fascinating that in Russia and Ukraine, Moldova, and the countries around there, the Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates January 14th as the Eastern Orthodox New Year. Interesting, because that's exactly the same as the Amazigh, the North African date of New Year. So again, these are ancient celebrations. And many of them make up for the days that were done away with when the Gregorian calendar replaces the pagan Julian calendar. And so many of the older societies decided to just keep the original New Year, which ends up being in the middle of January. So different people are celebrating at different times of year. In Ethiopia, the ancient Amharic civilization has their celebration September 12th, and the rains have ceased. Their country is carpeted with flowers, so flowers are central to the New Year celebrations in Ethiopia and that area. In Islamic countries this past year, September 22nd was the New Year's for Muslim countries. And so again, I think it's fascinating that different countries are looking at time through the lens of the moon or the sun or a combination of. Most of the traditional New Year's are solar, lunar, or harvest festivals. And so there's a natural time for the celebration of the new crops or the rebirth of spring or the new moon or sun cycles. It's the Western calendar that is a bit artificial. It's just an arbitrary date. So it's kind of fascinating that I feel like that kind of separates us from natural cycles. Maybe it's a way of distancing us from the traditional pagan rituals of old. But of course, the most perfect calendar are the Mayan calendars, where there's no need for leap years, there's no need for any of the extra days, because their months and their weeks were perfectly timed by the sun, because they studied so much in the temples. The most important structure in any temple complex is the observatory, where very specific dates were kept, and so the sun and the moon played a part in establishing exactly when the auspicious days would be, and of course the New Year's. So it's fascinating around the world to take a look at different celebrations of New Year's. And so what will you be doing for your New Year's? How will you be celebrating your New Year's? What are the things that you will be doing new in the new year? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you. So this New Year's is a marking of time. It is a marking of the passage of time. And so you get to, as they say, turn over a new leaf. And so think about what your new year and the new life you'd like in the new year. What are the small habits you can change? What are the things that we can do to make our lives better and to help those we care about make their lives better? So on to my favorite part of the video, the book recommendations. As always, check with your local library, check with your local bookseller. We love to support our libraries and our local booksellers. And so the book recommendations that I have for you all have to do with, of course, the new year. The first book is This Time Next Year by Susan Cousins. And this is an interesting book. It's about two people that are born on New Year's Day and how their lives intertwine. And she feels like he's gotten all the luck and she has not. And so this takes place in London society. So it's kind of a fun read, interesting about how people perceive their birth date and whether it's auspicious or not, and what are the things we can do to make our perception guide our lives. The second book is called White Teeth by Zadie Smith. And again, this is a book about a woman that is going through her life and all of the trials and tribulations. Fascinating what happens on New Year's. And so I won't give away too much of the plot, but I highly recommend it. You'll enjoy it. It's a good read. And the third book is New Year's Kiss by Unoman Nwankor, an African writer who, really interesting because the Francophile African writers, the writers from France that either write in their native languages from different African nations and sometimes get translated to French, it takes a bit for them to be translated to English. And so this is a book that by the title you can tell it's a love story, and it begins on New Year's and the trials and tribulations of the couple that begin on New Year's. And so it's a fun read and you would enjoy it. And I love discovering new authors, and so this is a good way to do that, is by taking a look at books that come from other regions, from in other languages that may be translated into a language that you can read. I mean, how fun is that? So we wish you the happiest of New Year's. We wish you a new year full of bendiciones, full of blessings. And again, please subscribe. We would love you to let us know what you're reading. What are you doing this New Year's? And books are a window into the world, so enjoy them. And as always, con mucho cariño, mucho salud. Muchas gracias.